Annotating Morga's book. In the late 19th century, a young Filipino scholar took on the task of revisiting history. That scholar was Jose Rizal, and the book he chose was Antonio de Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, one of the earliest written accounts of the Philippines by a Spaniard. But Rizal did not just read it, he annotated it. Why? Let's find out. Rizal saw Morga's book as a rare and important document, but he also noticed its biases and omissions. He decided to annotate it, providing corrections and highlighting the advanced civilization of pre-colonial Filipinos. Rizal's annotations were revolutionary. He refuted claims that Filipinos were primitive, emphasizing their achievements in agriculture, trade, and craftsmanship long before Spanish rule. Through his annotations, Rizal aimed to awaken national consciousness. He wanted Filipinos to realize that they had proud history, one that colonization had tried to erase. Rizal's work sparked debates and discussions. His annotations challenged the colonial narrative and inspired many Filipinos to seek reform and eventually independence. Jose Rizal's annotations of Morga's book were more than just footnotes. They were a call to action. By reclaiming history, he reminded Filipinos of their identity and their right to self-determination. His work continues to inspire scholars, historians, and all who seek the truth.
Rizal and the Solidaridad. On December 13, 1888, a turning point in Philippine history was unfolding. Jose Rizal, our national hero, was in Europe. It was heard that the flames of Filipino nationalism will be stoked. In the Solidaridad, the movement that would become the voice of Filipino reform was born. Rizal had the opportunity to meet fellow Filipinos in Europe. Among them were leaders like Graciano Lopez and Jaina. This man, along with Rizal, would lay the foundation of the Solidaridad publication that would become the mouthpiece for Filipino reformists. During his stay in London, Rizal thought were turning towards something greater. The writing from his period, La Vision del Grey Rodriguez included, help fuel the creation of movement would bring Filipinos together, La Solidaridad. Rizal received bad and good news during his stay in London. Good news informing him a powerful defense of his first novel, It's No Limitangre, by none other than the Reverend Father Vicente Garcia, petition of 1888, and the tenants of Calamba, Agrarian Trouble, were facing persecution, and that his brother-in-law, Manuel and Mariano, were exiled to Bohol and was denied Christian burial, and his friend Loriano, UST medical student, was in prison for possessing some copies of his.
In mid-March 1899, Jose Rizal moved to Paris, a city full of excitement and high living costs. Despite the vibrant life around him, he remained focused on his work, spending long hours at the National Library. There, he continued to revise historical annotations on Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, and wrote a satirical response por teléfono to a Spanish friar's attack on his novel No Limitangere. Rizal also perfected his French and studied. He founded the Kidlat Club, which later became the Indios Bravos, a society promoting Filipino excellence. While busy with intellectual pursuits, Rizal also socialized with friends like the Pardo de Taveras and Lunas, and even hosted a Christmas dinner. After the holidays, he returned to London before moving on to Brussels.
Misfortunes in Madrid in 1890 to 1891. During 1890 to 1891, Dr. Jose Rizal went through one of the most difficult periods of his life while living in Madrid. During this time, he experienced severe trials in his family, finance, politics, and personal life. But despite all this, and he continued his aspiration for reform in the Philippines. This is the beginning of his struggle. While in Madrid, Rizal, but at the same time, bad news arrived from the Philippines. his family had been expelled from their home in Calamba after they fought for their rights and against the friars. Because of what happened to his family, they lost their financial support, causing Rizal to struggle in his daily life. Sometimes he did not have enough money for food and rent. In his letter, he admitted that he endured hunger and hardship in Madrid. Disagreement with La Solidaridad. Apart from financial problem, he also had disagreement in La Solidaridad, especially Marcelo H. del Pilar. They did not agree on the direction of the newspaper and the struggle of the propaganda movement. Because of this he gradually distanced himself from the group and no longer actively participated in their work. Due to excessive stress and fatigue, Rizal fell in Madrid. He also went through great sadness, especially because of the problem his family was facing and his feeling that he was becoming distant from his old friends. Because of all his hardship, of Dr. Rizal decided to leave Madrid and go to Brussels, Belgium in 1891. There he continued to write his second novel of El Filibusterismo, a darker and bolder novel that expresses his anger at the operations of the Spanish in the Philippines. Um, the year 1890, the year 1890 to 1891 in Madrid were a darker period in Rizal's life, full of hardship, lack of money, conflict with great sadness. But despite all this, he did not give up. Instead, he used his experience to forge strength, his determination to fight for the Philippines' independence, his trial to further him as a hero and fighter for justice. Rizal life in Madrid showed that no matter how difficult life is, one should not give up in the fight from what is right and just is in an inspiration to everyone to face trials with courage and determination.
Hello everyone, I'm Dustin Interrocho, and today I will discussing Jose Rizal's retirement from the propaganda movement. So let's start. Rizal left the Philippines in 1888, traveling to Europe to continue his studies and further immerse himself in intellectual and reformist circles. His time in Europe exposed him to different ideas and he became an active member of the propaganda movement, which sought reform under the Spanish rule. Rizal's relocation to Europe allowed him to engage with the other Filipino reformists who were advocating for change, and he settled in places like Madrid, Paris, and later London, where he could work freely without the oppressive restriction of the Spanish authorities back home. By 1891, Rizal became disillusioned with the propaganda movement, although he had initially hoped for peaceful reforms through the movement, and he realized that its methods were not leading to significant changes in the Philippines. Rizal felt that the movement's moderate approach was becoming ineffective. Although he distanced himself from the propaganda movement, Rizal's vision for the Philippines remained strong, and he continued to promote the idea of a better free Philippines, and his works like El Filibusterismo began to reflect his belief in the necessity of action, even though he personally did not embrace the armed revolution. In the end, Jose Rizal's time in Europe played a pivotal role in shaping his reformist ideas, and his writings, especially during his stay in London, became a voice for change in the Philippines. Despite his retirement from the propaganda movement, Rizal's influence as a reformist leader remained crucial in the Filipino struggle for the freedom and justice.
The printing of El Filibusterismo. Rizal searched for a printing shop that could give him the lowest quotation for the publication of his novel. At last, he found a publisher, Esmir Van Lopez, number 66 Biandirin Street, who was willing to print this book on an installment basis. He found his jewels to pay down the payment in early partial payments during the printing of the novel. Rizal became desperate because his funds were running low. He received some money from Basa and 200 from Rodriguez Arias from the copies of Morgan's successors sold in Manila, but these funds were also used up. July 1891, Rizal wrote a letter to Basa saying that if no money came, he would have to stop El Fili's publication. August 6, the printing had to be suspended, as Rizal feared, because he could no longer provide the necessary funds to the printer. El Filibusterismo comes off the press. In this moment of despair, Rizal almost burned the manuscript of El Filibusterismo. When everything seems lost, help came from the unexpected source. Valentin Ventura heard of Rizal's predicament and immediately sent the amount needed to finish the publication of the novel. September 18, 1891, El Fili came off the press. Rizal immediately sent 2 copies to Hong Kong, one for Basa and the other for Sixto Lopez. Out of gratitude, he gave the original manuscript of El Filibusterismo and the printed copy with his autograph to Valentin Ventura. Filipino patriots praised the novel. The members of the Filipino colony in Barcelona published a tribute in La Publicidad, a Barcelona newspaper, eulogizing the novel's original style. The Liberal Madrid newspaper, El Nuevo Regimen, serialized the novel in its October 1891 issues. All copies of the first edition, Ghent edition.
Good day everyone, today let's take a quick journey back to year 1891 and follow Dr. Jose Rizal as he moves Europe to Hong Kong. On October 18, 1891, Rizal left Europe after publishing El Filibusterismo. He boarded Malburin and sailed to Hong Kong, where it stayed 7 months. But why Hong Kong? Rizal had 3 main reasons. So first, to step away from rivalry with Marcelo H. del Pilar. Second is to set up a new base for the propaganda movement. And the third one is to be closer to family in the Philippines. He arrived in Hong Kong on November 20, 1891. The Filipino community there, especially his friend Jose Mabasa, welcomed him warmly. Rizal did not forget his family. On December 1, 1891, he wrote to his parents, asking if he could return home. He was aware of the ongoing agrarian issues in Calamba. On the same day, his brother-in-law, Manuel Hidalgo, he wrote to him devastating news. 25 people from Calamba, including Rizal's father, siblings, and other relatives, had been deported due to their dispute with the friars. These moments in Rizal's life show his deep concern for both his family and country. His time there was short, but he played a crucial role in his next moves in the revolution.
In December of 1891, Jose Rizal reunited with his family on Hong Kong during Christmas. While he was in Hong Kong, Jose Rizal practiced medicine and with the help of his friend Dr. Lorenzo P. Marquez, they built a large cliente and opened a medical clinic where he was recognized as an excellent eye surgeon. During the time of Jose Rizal in Hong Kong, he has a plan that will change the lives of many Filipinos who doesn't own a land, and it was called the Borneo Colonization Project. He aims to establish a new Calamba by relocating a landless Filipinos to Borneo. In April 92, Dr. Jose Rizal traveled to Borneo and successfully negotiated with the British authorities, who were willing to grant him 100,000 acres of lands. Many Filipinos supported this project, believing it could provide a better future for the people. However, there were a number of Filipinos who objected it, one of which was Rizal's own brother-in-law Hidalgo. Not everyone approved of this project. One of Rizal's biggest critics was his own brother-in-law Hidalgo. Moreover, the Spanish authorities, particularly the Governor General Eulogio Despujo, saw it as an unpatriotic act, and despite writing twice to Despujo, Rizal did not receive any response. Instead, Despujo oriented the Spanish consul in Hong Kong to reject the project, fearing it would lead to labor shortage in the Philippines. Despite many obstacles, Dr. Jose Rizal remained determined, and he decided to return to Manila for these following reasons: to personally discuss his Borneo colonization project with the Governor General Despujol, and to establish the La Liga Filipina, a progressive organization aimed to uniting Filipinos. And the last is to counter the false accusation made against him and his family in Calamba by Eduardo de Lete. Before leaving, he wrote 3 significant letters: one to his families and his friends, other to his fellow Filipinos, and the last to the Governor General Despujol. However, Rizal and his sister Lucia is unaware that they were walking into the trap. Upon their arrival, Spanish authorities had already secretly filed a case against him. Despujol even instructed his secretary to investigate whether Rizal had neutralized himself as a German citizen. The siblings sailed across China without prior knowledge that what awaits them in the Philippines.